Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the 5th edition Vampire the Masquerade tabletop role-playing rules by World of Darkness. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. Listeners should know that this podcast is intended for a mature audience and will include strong language and mature themes. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and so forth, that may bear resemblance to entities living, dead, or undead is strictly coincidental. My name is Rena Henze, and for tonight's game, I will be your storyteller. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Old Ways Podcast's Vampire the Masquerade Chronicle, Blood Moon Rising. I'm your storyteller Rena, and tonight we are bringing you yet another of our character prologues, introducing our coterie to you, our beloved listeners. So thanks again to all of our Patreon backers who are helping us bring this chronicle to life, and thank you to everyone who is listening to the show and contributing in any way. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the spotlight over briefly to our subject for tonight. So Allie, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your character?
Hi, I'm Allie, and I will be playing Katerina Bogdonivich. And she is a Toreador, and she's pretty short, but very physically well built. She's like 5'2", 110 pounds soaking wet, but she has the body almost of like a dancer, is what you would think that she would be more built for, but she actually is a like just locally known baker because she's done a few big catering jobs for people of renown, catered a couple of weddings, specifically one for like the mayor's sister and the like head of police and things like that. So she is basically just around to help provide the coterie with connections they might not otherwise have.
Excellent. I can't wait to see what treats and delights you have for our chronicle. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into Katerina this evening. So it is about 6:30 p.m. on a Friday in October. The sun has recently set. It's a fairly cold evening because of, as usual, the chill off the bay, but it's bright and clear for the most part. No rain, no drizzle. And being a Friday, when you wake up, you can hear street noise, you can hear loud party goers now that the majority of the pandemic is over and people can actually go out and do things again. You've had to readjust perhaps to the street noise that absent for about 18 months of your unlife. And lots of cars going by and more smells of marijuana and cooking and all sorts of delights waft up to your window. So where does Katerina sleep during the day?
She has a little townhouse that's just kind of in the it's not like in the heart of the city. It's kind of out towards the edges, but definitely not like down towards any suburbs. But she sleeps there during the day, and she has a state-of-the-art security system in place to like detect movement and that sort of thing, so that she knows if there's going to be any real potential danger to her, and it's some proofed as much as it possibly can be. So
do you have anyone who lives with you, or do you live alone? Do you have any other vampires or ghouls or anything of that sort? Or is it completely silent when you wake up?
it's not completely silent. I imagine there's a ghost or something that lives in my house because I hear noises sometimes during the day when I'm trying to sleep, when I'm the only person around. I have the suspicion that my haven is haunted, and I leave it alone, whatever it might be. But other than that, I definitely live alone by the time that I'm tired and ready to go to bed. I value that time alone when I can get it.
Definitely. Well, you wake up this particular evening, and as you are waking up, stretching, getting ready to face the night ahead of you, you're feeling, as usual, hungry. You feel the stirrings within you. And I'd like you to give me a rouse check to see if you're able to contain your hunger or if it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you this evening. So I'd like you to roll 1d10 and you need to roll a 6 or above.
I did not get a 6. I got a 2.
Okay. So with a 2, that means you failed your check. It's a little bit more difficult for you to restrain your urges. So I'd like you to take 1 point of hunger. You can mark
Okay.
that on your sheet. As you're waking, uh, whatever it is about tonight, maybe it's the anticipation of the events that you know are coming your way. Maybe it's something that happened the night before. Regardless, you're feeling a bit more hungry tonight. You can feel the blood pounding in your head. You can feel the hunger rising to a point where you're normally able to control it. And you can tonight if you choose to. You're not going to rush out and rip out the throat of the nearest passerby, but when you stretch and close your eyes as you extend your head backward, crack your neck a little bit as you rise from slumber, you can almost feel the beating heart of someone walking past your building. Just for a moment, you can hear that. You bare your fangs slightly in anticipation of the delights that await you before you recall yourself to where you are. So, what would you like to do?
Probably the first thing that I'm going to do is call the bakery and check in just to make sure that nothing dire is happening this evening, and make sure that everything that I need to have prepared is prepared for the evening.
So tell us a little bit about your bakery. What is it? What is it called? What do you do there? Give our listeners a little picture of your life as a baker.
My bakery is called Dragonfly Confections, and the day side of the bakery caters to mortals, obviously, and basically everything that's on the day menu is also on the night menu, aside from a few select things that are reserved for fellow kindred. And for the most part, it's like little desserts, so we're looking at like individualized like tarts and pies, cream puffs, truffles, and like some little lava cakes that are like frozen to like be warmed up at home or to be eaten there. And we also do a wide variety of breakfast pastries. So you're, talking about pain au chocolat and scones and muffins and things of that nature. And we're probably pretty well known throughout the city. business is steady but not so busy all the time that it's a concern of too many people being curious where I am all the time. But on the night side, it's for... There's a room that is sectioned off in the back that is for Kindred, where they have a identification card and they are screened through recommendations and a bodyguard on site to make sure that they are appropriate to be part of what mortals probably view as a exclusive club. And every pastry that's on that night list, anything that would be red velvet flavored or cherry flavored or strawberry flavored, basically anything that's going to be bright red is, well, it's blood that's been provided by humans from a farm.
Wonderful. So you go down to your bakery, to Dragonfly Confections. Do you walk? Do you take the public transportation system, an Uber? Do you drive? How close is your bakery to where you live?
It's... I live like a block from one of the trolleys, and it's only a couple stops away, so I almost always ride the trolley down.
Okay. So you take the trolley down to work. It doesn't take you that long to get there. You pass lots of revelers apparently going to some kind of party downtown. It's a little early to be a Halloween party. It's only about mid-October. Perhaps it's just the exuberance of being able to leave the house and go out and do things and live fairly normally that people seem to be indulging in of late, ever since the population of the United States reached what could be considered herd immunity, a term that the vampires of the area have chuckled at, perhaps in private conversation. But you can walk among them fairly easily. Most people don't take any notice of you as they're talking to themselves. You see one group that is obviously fairly drunk, even though it's only at this point about 7:30 in the evening. And one very, very drunk young man chugs down from a bottle, even though open drinking in the streets is not legal in this part of town. He throws the bottle down an alley as he staggers off, and you see a homeless person scurry up out of the shadows and carefully collect the bottle, put it in a bag full of glass bottles and aluminum cans before departing back into the shadows. But it doesn't take you long to get to your work. It's still open for business for another half hour or so to the humans around town. You sometimes get the late evening customers who want to sneak in for a baked treat before going off to whatever it is they're doing, or maybe you have your executives who are working late stopping by for a treat to placate the spouse when they get home. So who do you have working in the bakery when mortals would be about? When you walk in, who do you see?
And I walk in, I imagine I see whoever my business partner has hired working at the counter, and I'll definitely, be acknowledging them, a brief wave. Most of the people during the day shift I don't see most of the time, so I don't really bother to learn their names. And the backside of the bakery will definitely be empty at this time of day. Production's already, pretty much done for the day. But tonight's a special occasion, so I imagine that I have one person who's familiar to the nighttime products who's finishing preparing things for me while I go into the office to talk to my business partner, who I affectionately refer to as Ray Ray.
Okay. So you walk through the front part of the bakery, and a young Hispanic woman with her hair pulled back in a bun and then with a hairnet over it. She's wearing a name tag that says Lexi, is finishing up with a customer who is probably going to be the last customer of the evening. You can tell by Lexi's demeanor, she's just really desperately hoping people will stop coming in so she can close up and go home. It's Friday night. People don't want to be working. But she smiles and she waves at you as you go past her. And you can tell that it's been a very busy day. The shop is mostly empty of the baked goods that were so carefully prepared the night before. There's a couple slices of cheesecake still left, looking rather forlorn in the front window, and about a half a dozen sugar cookies off to one side that Lexi is now packaging up for the one customer. But everything else seems to have been cleared out, so it's been a pretty productive day, at least, for Dragonfly Confections. As you make your way to the back, does the worker who is familiar with the night goods, let's say, is that a fellow vampire? Is it one of your ghouls? Who do you have working on those treats?
It's definitely gonna be a fellow vampire. I don't tend to keep ghouls. They're extra things for me to keep track of, and I already have enough things in that in that window. It's probably another Toreador, and just knowing me, it's probably going to be someone who's a pretty close friend, because usually I'm the only person that gets to touch the night goods. But
So you walk into the back and you see Lucy West, who is your Toreador friend. She's been with you in this part of San Francisco for about 15 years now. She's originally from England, came over to pursue an acting career like many young Toreadors do, only to find that there wasn't much of a market for another blonde, blue-eyed, pale, even model-esque looking young woman. So she moved up to San Francisco and you met, and she is now helping you out sometimes in the evenings, working with select customers. And she waves at you and asks, "Hey, Kat, you want to take a look at what we got on offer tonight, or are we all good?"
Lucy, you know my name is Katarina.
Sorry. I still haven't gotten used to the whole don't shorten people's names things. I'll get it. We've got all eternity to figure it out. Sorry, Katerina.
But yes, please make sure that everything is prepared for the party tonight.
She opens a massive refrigerator and she shows you with great pride this humongous red velvet cheesecake that's got these beautiful artistic swirls done through it. And in the very center is a quote unquote red velvet clan symbol for Tremere, which is the hosting clan of the party that you are catering tonight. She looks up at you and smiles and says, "Oh, I spent a lot of time learning to do the patterns recently. It's just I think I'm really letting go of my artistic side. North California has just been so good for me in learning to embrace my inner artist."
That's all well and good, Lucy, but did you also make the cream puffs and the strawberry tarts for me?
"Oh, yes, I did those first. Of course, they're easy. I could do them in my sleep." And she points to the back of the room, and you can see rows upon rows of tarts and cream puffs and other delights.
And you coordinated with the driver to make sure that everything's going to be packaged?
Oh, yeah, yes, the driver will be here in about 35 minutes.
Right. Let me know when he is here, because I need to make sure that I touch base with him because you know I'm very particular about these things.
Of course, of course, of course. Don't worry about it. I've got everything under control. There won't be any problems whatsoever. I got this.
If your cheesecake wasn't so beautiful, I would be cutting into it.
She looks a little scared.
As she should. Katerina is very, very specific, and she hadn't necessarily approved the giant cheesecake, but she's gonna go with it and pray. Thankfully, there's enough other baked goods there that the cheesecake is not going well. It can just be removed and ushered back into said vehicle if necessary.
Lucy protectively puts the cheesecake back into the fridge and gently closes the door. She looks a little disappointed by your reaction to her work, but she goes back to the back of the kitchen and starts working on boxing up cream puffs. So you are free to go on to your office to meet with Ray Ray.
So I will just rap on the door. Ray Ray and I have known each other for so long. He knows what my knock sounds like.
Come in.
Hello, Ray Ray.
You go in to the office and Ray Ray is sitting at the desk. He's got his feet propped up on the desk as he's flipping through something on his phone. What does Ray Ray look like? Tell us a little bit about your partner in baking.
He is a mixed African American and Latino, and he is very openly, comfortably gay. He isn't necessarily like overly flamboyant, but he's definitely very comfortable with himself, and there's certain, like, he likes to sashay his hips, and he uses a lot of more feminine hand gestures when he talks, especially if he's very excited about something. And he keeps his hair down in a buzz cut, but he's got like these like hazel eyes that don't necessarily match his complexion, that kind of catch you off guard. And he's like 5'10", he's got a pretty thin frame, but you can tell that he is healthy. He maintains himself very well.
Ray Ray looks up from his phone as you enter, and he smiles, flashing very, very white teeth at you. He spends a lot of time on teeth whitening. And is, "Hey, Katerina! Ready for the big party tonight? Wish you'd tell me what's going on. I could do some marketing on the Instagram. I mean, Lucy wouldn't even let me take pictures. I don't know what you're going on with all these secret parties and stuff, but hey, did you see the cheesecake she was working on? It looked pretty good. I only caught a glimpse of it as I was walking through the kitchen, but it looked pretty good."
Yes, well, I did not give her permission to make it, but we'll see how it goes.
She's just eager, you know, youth.
She wants to please, and I understand. But it looks like we were productive today, yes?
Oh, very productive. We had a whole group coming in after lunch. They were sounded really hungry, and they bought out all the cake section, like the entire cake section. Can you believe it? I've never seen that happen. There were 8 people coming and just like, "Give me all the cakes you got." "All the cakes?" I said, "Yes, all the cakes." I said, "Are you sure you want all of them?" And they said, "Yes, all of them. Do we look like we're joking?" And so we boxed up all the cakes and they just carried them all out. One guy was carrying 5 boxes of cake.
Nothing to complain about. We haven't had a big sale like that since our last bachelorette party.
Yeah. Maybe they were doing some big surprise party or something for the CEO. Who knows? But they were very excited about having so much cake. I can empathize.
Yes. But you know that I like handling these night parties. You do so much marketing for our day side. I don't want to put extra pressure on you. You and I have been together too long, and you remember that fight we had back in New Orleans when we were working out of that food truck, and I thought you were going to kill me if I didn't let you help me out a little bit.
Yeah, water under the levee, you know. And he smiles up at you again and takes his feet off the desk. He's wearing very brightly colored Vans with no socks, and he stands up, stretches to his full height of 5'10", and you can hear a slight crack in his neck as he stretches. Yeah, well, I mean, I got stuff to be doing tonight anyway. You know, I met a guy. Have I told you about Raoul?
No.
Uh, well, Pablo didn't work out. I mean, nice guy, but he chewed so loudly, it was just driving me crazy.
You're so picky, Ray Ray.
I mean, can you imagine, though, living with someone for your entire life who chews so loudly that you feel like you've got these nails going down your spine?
Well, no, I could barely stand living with you when we roomed together for a year.
Right. Right. You're one to talk about being picky anyway. So we split ways. You know, we still go out to the club sometimes, but I met Raoul on Grinder. Oh, he's got some nice abs, let me tell you. At least I think he does, based on the pictures. I hope he's not catfishing me, but you know, we'll find out tonight. And he winks at you lasciviously.
Well, you know I love you, Ray Ray. Be careful, as always.
When am I never not careful?
When you drink too much. Yeah.
Me? Drink too much? You're quite a joker. He winks. Don't worry, we're not going to the bar. We're going out for pasta or some shit. He says he's classy.
Well, all right. Enjoy yourself. And did you hear from Cora? Cora, is she coming in to cover the night shift since I won't be here?
He flips through his text messages. Oh, yeah, she'll be here in 45 minutes. Is that okay? She got stuck in traffic or something.
Yeah, no, that's fine. As long as she's here by 9, that was all I wanted. So
Yeah, she said she'll be here.
perfect. Then I will trust her to use the hide a key. We have done this many times before, but need to make sure that everything is perfect, you know.
Yes. And he laughs, this deep belly laugh. Like, perfect Katerina, gotta be perfect about every perfect thing. I know. It's just what makes you such a good boss. I mean, that's why we're a popular business, because your stuff is always perfect. But have you ever tried letting loose? I mean, letting your hair down or something? I mean, come on.
Yeah, how do you think I came up with I came up with the blood orange pan au chocolat that we sell so many of, huh? That was when I was just throwing flavors around and decided, fuck it, I might as well try something I've never done before.
That's food, though, Katerina. I mean, going out and letting your hair down. I never see you at a party or anything. I mean, we were in New Orleans, and you never did a Mardi Gras.
Well, no.
Nobody was throwing beads at you.
No.
That's what I mean.
Civilized women do not behave that way.
He just shakes his head and mutters something under his breath that sounds suspiciously like Killjoy. But then he gives you a big side hug, catching you maybe a bit unawares as he walks out the door, and he calls back, "One of these days you're gonna have to have some fun."
Well, maybe one of these days I will let you take me to a club, eh?
Oh, don't tease me, Katerina. That's so cruel. And he clasps his hands over his heart and tilts his head up at you dramatically. I want nothing more in this life than to take you out on the town and make you have some fun, eh?
I will make an effort to let my hair down at the party too.
That's all I want. And he gives you a big thumbs up and he saunters out of the building.
All right, so I'm gonna go and make sure that everything is boxed the way that I want everything boxed. Lucy's still learning and I want to trust her, but trust comes with time. And Cora Mills is someone that I have come to trust over the last 25 years, because she also came from New Orleans, but she moved up into the San Francisco area about a decade before Ray and I made it up.
Is Cora a fellow kindred?
Yes, and she is also of Clan Toreador.
Keep it in the family.
It's a pride thing.
Family business. Well, everything goes fairly smoothly. The driver shows up, and you're able to explain exactly what you want and where to go. Lucy has packed everything perfectly. You go back and check every single box, and they are immaculate. And Lucy's just standing in the back watching you with her big blue eyes, just sort of nervously shifting from foot to foot as you carefully, meticulously check each box. And Cora comes in while you're doing that, and she just sort of shakes her head and laughs at both of you as she goes back to the office to change into her working attire for the evening. But everything goes off without a hitch when it comes to packing, getting everything in the car, and getting ready to go.
Perfect.
So, this particular party is being hosted by Vera Giovanni. And Vera Giovanni is a Tremere. And she's fairly well known in town because, unlike most Giovanni, she is not Hecata, she is not any of those sort of underground cults into which most of the Giovanni disappeared when their clan broke up. There are rumors, because she's a 250-year-old vampire, there are rumors that there was a feud between a Giovanni family and a Tremere family, and they swapped children to be sired by the other family to sort of mend some kind of rift. There are rumors about a Giovanni child who was stolen by a Tremere family. There are all sorts of rumors swirling around Vera, but nobody really knows the truth, and she hasn't seen fit to enlighten anyone. So all you know is there is a Giovanni who is a Tremere, and she is fairly adept at hosting parties, usually for the more bookish sort of Tremere, who don't get out very much, tend to be sort of publishing parties and celebrations of academic achievement, that sort of thing. But you've hosted parties for her a few times at this point, so you know her well enough, and you are her preferred caterer at this point. So according to the invitation, fancy dress is required. What does Katerina wear to a fancy dress party?
Oh, Katerina is definitely wearing this killer green number that has a super deep V-neck, and she's got heels for days. They're probably a 4-inch heel with no platform that just outline the curves of her legs. And despite the deep V-neck, there's nothing directly exposed, despite it looking almost like what could be considered club attire. It's definitely something that you could see potentially being on the red carpet at some kind of awards ceremony. It's just lovely.
So you get all gussied up before you head off to set up the catering for this party, and you are absolutely flawless in appearance when you get into the vehicle, and the driver takes you to the Hellspawn Club. The Hellspawn Club is the most popular vampire hangout spot when it comes to parties and large events. It's in an old condemned, or theoretically condemned, building down near the wharf. It has been condemned for about 50 years now, but for some reason, no one ever seems to get around to actually tearing it down. So the Hellspawn Club has been set up quite nicely there for some time. Various clans use it for different events and parties. Some nights you can go in and you can find all sorts of clan members, especially the younger ones, dancing and partying and bringing human escorts to drink from and then depositing somewhere outside in fits of ecstasy. But tonight's event, knowing Vera Giovanni, is probably going to be a bit more dignified, a bit calmer. And when you enter the Hellspawn Club tonight, your guess is borne out. There is a classic waltz being played over the loudspeakers. The floor, which usually has a disco ball or five spinning around over it, now has chandeliers, and you see several vampires in coats and tails putting up some posters and a few other things. It looks like a book launch party, perhaps, or something similar. That's what it looks like based on your experience with these people. But everyone who's helping to set up and get the place ready seems very dignified and very, very snobby. So as you enter the club, you direct the driver where to take the boxes of cream puffs and the cakes and everything. A vampire who you've seen before, very tall, very muscular, short, close-cropped, dark hair, wearing a dark blue suit, comes up to you and he says, Miss Bogdonivich, Miss Giovanni will see you now.
Thank you.
And he just nods his head slightly to the side. He has been Vera Giovanni's retainer, faithful retainer, for at least the last 75 years. You never see her go anywhere without him. So you follow him through this throng of younger vampires running around, setting up chairs, a couple practicing a waltz. Maybe they're performing tonight. Candles being set up and lit. It's all very quiet and calm and classy, except for the young vampires running around looking like they've forgotten what they're supposed to be doing. So the retainer leads you up a flight of stairs to a sort of balcony area, like an overlook. And there is a red velvet couch set up in front of a low table. And you see Vera Giovanni sitting on this couch. She's wearing a gorgeous, close-cut crimson gown. It hugs every curve of her figure. She's got long, dark hair that is usually loose over her shoulders, but is piled up into some very elegant, but very reminiscent of a forgotten age hairdo on top of her head with small gems stuck into it. Her eyes are a very piercing green as she looks at you. And next to her, standing, is a shorter woman, another vampire, wearing a very dark, unobtrusive black evening gown. And she's very curvy. She's got spectacles, little round spectacles, and shorter, close-cropped pixie hair. She's looking at you, and as Vera smiles, this other woman steps forward, and Vera makes very intense eye contact with you, and she brings her hands up, and she starts expressively signing in American Sign Language. And off to her side, her interpreter begins to speak for her, interpreting the signs for you. And the interpreter says, good evening, Miss Bogdonivich. Thank you for catering my party this evening. It is a pleasure, as always, to see you. And Vera smiles.
As always, Miss Giovanni, thank you for having me.
You know I would not have anyone else cater my parties, not after the most magnificent spread you provided for me the last time.
And I will just, you know, have a faint smile on my face and bow my head as thanks and raise it back up. We are going to have a experimental cheesecake tonight. It's not the main centerpiece, of course, but give out a few smaller slices before too many people get here and see how it goes over, I think.
Vera is watching your lips very intently, and as you mentioned cheesecake, she smiles slightly and signs back to you. This is very interesting. Was this from Cora or from Lucy?
This is a Lucy creation.
Ah, like the Danish. Yes. Well, we shall see how it goes. And Vera laughs out loud, and even the interpreter smiles a bit, just remembering a previous event that didn't quite go the way they wanted it to. And Vera pats the seat next to her on the couch, and the interpreter says, "Please join me on the couch."
I will definitely walk over and sit down next to her. We always have a good time.
So Vera angles her body towards you so that she can see your lips better, and the interpreter steps around so that she can follow the signing. And Vera gets more expressive the more she talks. Her body language gets bigger and bigger. She looks like she's always 21. She's been stuck in this 21-year-old body for about 250 years now. Sometimes she still speaks as if she is still 21 and just happy to have someone else there. And she signs back, I get so very tired of all of these professor types, and I have to throw this party because my sire says I have to throw this party, but they're just so boring.
I know, my dear. And you know that you are always welcome at my place. But I also know that your sire does not always approve of your adventuring.
He's so old. It's just the sheer exasperation on her face. This 250-year-old vampire's face is somewhat comical. But she laughs a little bit, and then she reaches over, she pats your hand, and says, I wish for some company tonight, would you mind? And she flutters her eyelashes at you.
I will stay with you. But you know that I still have my boundaries.
I know.
That will not change.
I know.
But I will accompany you this evening. Be your escort, if you like.
She smiles. She turns to her interpreter, Paula, and she signs something at Paula. And Paula looks at you and says, dressed the way you are, how could I not have you accompany me as my escort tonight?
Well, all the eyes will be on you. They always are.
She signs something at you that you recognize by now as you're such a tease. And you chat for a little bit more. This is it's been a few years where you come up and you chat to her after directing people to set up the party, so you have a very easy familiarity. She doesn't give you a whole lot of details about her life, and it's mutual. You don't share a whole lot, but you can talk to each other, and she seems at ease with you in a way she's not at ease with a lot of the members of her own clan. And then finally, there's a murmur of voices at the door, and she signs at you. I think, Professor, she looks at Paula and raises an eyebrow, and Paula signs the name Hawkins at her, and she nods. and keeps signing. Professor Hawkins is here. He wrote some boring tome on something or other. Historical blood magic of the Pyrenees tribe. I don't know. I tried reading it. I fell asleep. A hand to you. But, Sire says we must, make it a good night for him because he has won some sort of award in the clan or something. I don't care, but, here we go again.
And as always, because I imagine this is the second or third time that I've performed this particular honor of being her escort, and I hold my arm out for her.
She takes your arm and you lead her down the stairs. There's a gathering crowd of vampires in mostly older garb. This appears to be a particular group of the Tremere in town who are perhaps a couple centuries out of date and tend to stick to their own little groups and publish their own little tomes and do their magic together and not interact much with other people, especially other kindred. There's a lot of suits and tuxedos, and there are a few vampires in those very tight knee-length trousers and stockings and coats from the Revolutionary War era, including powdered wigs. And you can feel the slight giggle in Vera's shoulders that she keeps suppressed as you walk past that particular group. But she goes up to the front of the room with you, and the music comes to a slight stop, and everyone turns to face the front of the room, and she begins signing to the whole crowd with Paula interpreting. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to our honor ball for Professor Hawkins to congratulate him on the recent publication on his tome on the blood magic of the Pyrenees tribes of the 1st and 2nd centuries. And she just goes into this long, prepared speech, and her fingers are flying so fast you can't keep up with them. You've been learning some sign language, perhaps, since you've started getting to know her, but when she goes into speech mode, she is a blur of motion. And everyone is very quiet with a few appreciative murmurs, and instead of clapping, everyone shakes their hands in the air in silent applause. And then she smiles at everyone and says, well, enough of the speeches. I'm sure you're all eager to get to the actual party, which has been catered by the lovely Katerina Bogdonivich. And she gestures at you, and there's another wave of applause. And she says, we have some wonderful music tonight, appropriate for Professor Hawkins, and specifically requested by him and his family. So I hope you will remember your waltzing skills. There may be a foxtrot or two, but do have a good time, everyone. And she smiles, and everyone waves at her and then begins chattering, and you can hear Professor Hawkins in the center of the room beginning to pontificate on something to another group of academics who are asking him some very obscure point of terminology that he must have used in his tome. And everyone else appears to be going towards the snack table. And Vera looks at you and signs to you, would you care to dance?
But indeed. And I hold my hand out to her and escort her onto the dance floor.
A foxtrot strikes up as you go out onto the dance floor, a little bit more lively than a waltz. She seems relieved by this. And a few other couples come out onto the floor, and you have an enjoyable first dance in the hum of the room. Vera seems to be enjoying herself a bit more, perhaps, especially since she doesn't have to talk to anyone. As the dance ends, However, you're walking off the floor and Vera is signing something to you about getting some dessert. Someone interrupts you. A small man with very sharp, inquisitive, fox-like features. He's got tiny, sharp little eyes and a very angular face, wearing a long trench coat with a fedora under his arm, breaks out of the crowd and comes up to you. And he looks directly at Vera and he signs something at her that you can't keep up with. His hands move very gracefully and very fast. And she tilts her head. She looks at you. She looks back at him. And then she signs to you, and Paula interprets. He would like to speak to you alone. You, of course, know Sheriff Luther Garibaldi, yes? Sheriff Garibaldi is the prince's right-hand enforcer. He's a gangrel, and pretty much everyone knows of him, even if they haven't met him. And Luther smiles slightly at you.
I will, almost in a, subconscious, almost human-like action, hold my breath for a moment. Vampires don't need to breathe, but it's almost like just a natural reaction. I'm not super fond of gangrel, so it takes me a moment of retaining a nice poker face to not actively grimace. Vera, I will bring you a piece of cheesecake after this conversation, yeah?
She smiles and nods, but she looks a little bit anxious between the two of you. The sheriff of a prince, it's not usually a good thing or an exciting thing when the sheriff comes to speak with someone individually. And Luther has a particular reputation for being a bit on the brutal side of things. But she looks back and forth at you, and she nods a little bit, and she and Paula walk off towards the dessert table, but she keeps casually looking back over her shoulder at you as if to make sure you're still there. And Luther bows slightly.
Ah, Ms. Bogdonivich, a pleasure to meet you. I've heard so many things.
And our graceful sheriff, what can I do for you this evening?
He gestures towards a darker corner off to the side of the dance floor. It's a little more out of sight.
I would prefer not to speak so much in public.
Of course.
He walks off. It's almost a prowl, like a panther, the way he moves through the crowd. And you follow him into this darker corner. He pulls a packet of cigarettes out of his trench coat. And he looks at a cigarette. He lights it up. And he holds it up to his nose as if to inhale the scent. And there's a deep sigh before he puts it out and puts the packet back into his coat.
Well, it's a little bit of a tricky situation, you see.
And his dark eyes make very intense contact with yours.
You must not repeat this, but there's been a death in the prince's family, and you might say I'm investigating it.
And he tilts his head slightly.
Did you know the prince's clan brother Louis?
No, I've never met Louis.
Well, could you perhaps then explain to me why I found this at the murder scene?
And he pulls out of his shirt pocket one of your business cards, the kind that are reserved for your special customers. And it's spattered with dark blood.
Well, I do run a business, Sheriff, but I do not personally screen all of the clients. They come by recommendation. There's systems in place for that have been honed over many years. So I have never met him personally.
Oh, was he recommended to you? The Nosferatu, they don't really eat much, even of the infused things, although I am aware our noble prince has connections to the same place you obtain your humans from. But I don't know why our noble prince's clan brother would have your card.
And he tilts his head inquisitively like a bird.
Perhaps someone recommended it to him.
Can you think why or who? It would be helpful. As you can understand, the prince is most distressed at their clan brothers being gone after so long.
Of course. Losing a member of the family is never easy. So I will do what I can. I will consult with the other people who work with me at nights and see if I can't find out that information for you.
Thank you. That would be most helpful. Now you must keep this to yourself, of course.
Of course. I will simply ask my night crew to provide me with the records, and I will go through them myself.
He pulls out another card from the other side of his coat, and he hands it to you. It just has a number on it, a phone number.
You can reach me here any time of night.
He flashes his fangs at you. It's not unpleasant, but it's not pleasant either. This sharp smile of his.
Now, I would be very grateful for any information you can bring me. I do not want our prince to be distressed any more than they have to be. They have such a weight on their shoulders as it is.
Yes. I do understand. May I request to begin looking through the records tomorrow so that I may finish out this party, so that there is no breach of etiquette?
Oh, the prince would not wish to preach etiquette, of course. No, we can't have that. No, no, no. Tomorrow will be fine. Give my regards to Madame Giovanni.
And he puts his battered fedora on his head, and almost before you can react, he's slipped off through the crowd and has disappeared out of sight, leaving you standing there, maybe looking for him, wondering what exactly is happening, as Vera Giovanni looks at you from across the room with questioning look on her face. And that is where we will end tonight's session. So thank you very much to everyone for listening, and I hope you will tune in next week for our next in this series of prologues for our coterie. Thank you and good night.